Power is often mistaken for privilege. Yet in the context of national service, power is strictly a function of responsibility. The debate comparing the Indian administrative service and the Indian Army is frequently reduced to shallow arguments about perks, red beacons, and social status. To understand the true nature of authority, one must look past the visible trappings of office and examine the constitutional mandates that govern these two pillars of the Indian state. Both institutions serve the Republic, but they do so through fundamentally different instruments of statecraft. One operates as the steel frame of governance, maintaining internal order and development, while the other acts as the ultimate guarantor of national sovereignty, protecting the state from external aggression. To assess who holds more power, it is essential to first define the nature of that power. In a democracy, the ultimate authority rests with the civilian government. This is a non-negotiable tenet of the Indian Constitution. Consequently, the civil administration, represented by the IAS, functions as the primary interface between the elected government and the citizenry. An IAS officer, particularly when posted as a district magistrate or collector, holds a vast horizontal jurisdiction. They are the principal representative of the government in a district, coordinating between various departments, from police and revenue to health and education. Their signature authorizes land acquisition, manages disaster relief, and maintains law and order through the magistracy. In terms of sheer breadth of influence over the daily lives of citizens, the IAS officer holds a distinct advantage. Their decisions impact policy implementation, infrastructure development, and the allocation of public funds. However, the nature of military command is entirely different. An army officer's authority is vertical, intense, and absolute within their sphere. While an IAS officer manages systems and coordinates agencies, an army officer commands men and women who have sworn to lay down their lives upon orders. This is the concept of unlimited liability. A lieutenant or a captain in an operational area holds the power of life and death, a responsibility that carries a moral and legal weight unlike any other profession. When an army officer issues a command, it is not a suggestion or a policy directive. It is a binding order that must be executed immediately, often under enemy fire. The power of an army officer is derived from the monopoly on violence that the state possesses, used strictly to defend the nation. There is often confusion regarding protocol and the warrant of precedence. This official document outlines the hierarchy of dignitaries for ceremonial purposes. In this ranking, officers of the armed forces and the civil services have equivalent standings at various stages of their careers. For instance, the chiefs of staff are ranked significantly high, equivalent to judges of the Supreme Court, while a full general ranks above the cabinet secretary in protocol. However, functional power does not always mirror ceremonial rank. In a peace station, the district magistrate is the head of the district's criminal administration. If the military requires assistance or needs to move large convoys, they coordinate with the civil administration. The army, in peacetime, operates in aid to civil authority. This subordination is not a sign of weakness, but a structural design to ensure that the military remains a professional, apolitical force under the control of the elected government. Yet, the equation shifts dramatically in times of crisis or in disturbed areas. When the civil administration fails to maintain control, or when the integrity of the nation is threatened, the army is called upon. In areas under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, the operational commander holds significant legal authority to maintain public order, extending beyond what a civil magistrate can exercise. In these scenarios, the military becomes the final barrier between the state and anarchy. The IAS officer may request the Army's help for flood relief or riot control, but once the Army steps in, the tactical command remains strictly with the military commander. An IAS officer cannot order a soldier to fire their weapon, nor can they dictate military strategy. The chain of command in the Army is inviolable and insulated from civilian bureaucratic interference at the tactical level. Career progression also reveals a divergence in the type of influence wielded. An IAS officer moves rapidly toward policy formulation. By the time they reach the level of a joint secretary, they are instrumental in drafting the policies that shape the nation's future in sectors like finance, defense, or agriculture. They work in close proximity to ministers and the cabinet, wielding immense administrative power. Conversely, an army officer spends decades honing the art of war. As they rise to the rank of major general or lieutenant general, they command formations the size of small cities, managing thousands of troops, heavy artillery, and aviation assets. A corps commander in the Indian Army is responsible for the security of hundreds of kilometers of border, a task that requires strategic acumen and geopolitical awareness. The decisions made by senior military commanders have direct geopolitical consequences, influencing international relations and national security posture. The culture of authority also differs. In the civil services, authority is often exercised through files, committees, and consensus building. It is a slow, deliberative process designed to ensure checks and balances. In the Army, authority is exercised through direct leadership and personal example. An officer leads from the front. The ethos of the Chetwode motto, placing the safety, honor, and welfare of the country first, followed by the honor, welfare, and comfort of the men, and one's own ease last, creates a form of moral authority that commands deep respect. A soldier salutes the rank, but they follow the officer. This loyalty cannot be mandated by a government gazette. It must be earned in the mud and rain of field postings. Ultimately, comparing the power of an IAS officer and an Army officer is like comparing the foundation of a building to its perimeter walls. The foundation supports the structure, bearing the load of daily existence, much like the civil administration ensures the functioning of the state. The walls protect the interior from the storm, standing rigid against external threats, much like the Army ensures the survival of the nation. If the foundation cracks, the building sinks. If the walls are breached, the building is destroyed. The question of who has more power is therefore moot because their powers are non-overlapping and complementary. The IAS officer ensures that the country is worth fighting for by building a robust, functioning society. The Army officer ensures that there is a country left to build by defending its borders against all odds. Both are constrained by the Constitution, both are accountable to the people of India, and both require a lifetime of discipline and integrity. For a young aspirant deciding between these two paths, the choice should not be based on who commands more authority, but on what kind of responsibility one wishes to shoulder. If the goal is to effect change through policy, administration, and grassroots development, the civil services offer the widest platform. If the calling is to lead men into battle, to stand guard in the freezing heights of the Himalayas, and to embrace a life where duty supersedes life itself, then the uniform is the only answer. True power, in either uniform or civil dress, lies not in the authority one wields over others, but in the capacity to serve the nation with honor and competence.